Chapter 1. Leave the pieces when you go. It is time to take my turn. This phrase I whispered to myself as my fingers hit end on my former life. The life of titles and privilege in my ivory tower. To describe how it felt in the moment to slam the door on all of my hard work, I would say that my fingers felt like toes hanging off the edge of the waterfall. This waterfall was only in my mind, but the intense feeling was the same. Moments before, I had to make the call of my life and stable income to my home and my family. The cost was only my entire soul. The alternative route would be to say no more and raise my chin to the sky. All I need is love and sunglasses because my future is bright. This moment in my life, there are battles far greater that I need to fight than that job. At the end of the, at the end of that At the end of the day, that is all that was a job and not my dream. This decision was by far the hardest I had to make up until this point in my life. My head looking over the water rushing over the cliff, knowing that jumping off this ledge could kill me, but staying where I stood was certain death. I was swimming in a rapid river surrounded by sharks, and in this water I was bare naked and emotionally raw. The sharks smelt blood in the water up ahead. They arrived and exploited my pure skin, covering my heart. That day in my waking life, I hung up that phone with a person whom I loved, a maternal love, and in her arms I felt safe. The safety was necessary for my survival in that river. My spirit is a wild animal that cannot be tamed. One cold day in December, her safety blanket could no longer cover me. My howl had got too loud. The sharks have found me. They had sniffed me out, and in this moment we cried. My fate was shown, and all I wanted was my mom or a mom, some sort of maternal guidance in this bed I made. That woman could never have been my mother. I had a mother, and however she was a million miles away, fighting her own battles, and her battle was far greater than mine. She was battling against cancer, and cancer does not care that her daughter is suffering from what could be a major failure in some eyes. And in my eyes of perception, I seen failure was a prison hold in my mind and heart, and all I wanted was to lay my head on my mom's lap and cry. And although my mother loves me and wishes she could wipe this slate clean, she cannot. I must clean up the spill on this cold floor where I stood. My trusted friend at that job, who I told goodbye for the last time, never wanted to hear the words goodbye from me. This time she knew that I would never be coming back like I have always done years prior. And year after year I lined up like a whipping post for whatever my duty was for that day. My back bruised and I could not take it any more. Then the wind filled my lungs, and God's grace on my shoulders. I closed my eyes, and I threw my body off of the cliff into clear, abundant waters below. And where I go is none of their business. It doesn't say that at all. Where this is so dramatic. I put you to sleep. Where I go is none of their concern, but it is my concern. It's not over. Still isn't. This I had at the time I wrote some really generic thing. You have to think I wrote this in January 2021. I feel quite different from this time in my life. Then I stood up from the chair of despair I had been sitting. This chair was my cliff, and gathered my pride, stopped my shaking hand from disbelief of what I did, or what I did. Closing that chapter on my real life book because I did not want to experience it any longer. And my son in that moment looked up and smiled. My health melted back into my physical body, knowing that I made the right decision. Then I walked my heavy head to the bathroom, wet a rag, washed the panic attack from my face, and after quitting a job I gave my entire soul to, that job had me sign in the book of a beast. With wishes and hopes of green grasses, climbing the hills of that mountain had seen some of the worst treacherous terrain my feet had felt. Searching for green fields, hill after hill, river after river, the greener pasture never appeared. just smoke-filled colonies of chemicals and cheap thrills, getting high from the gases exhaled from the praises being sung from the helicopter above. That helicopter, overheard, was filled with clean, smooth sharks, sheltered from the heat of the war below, and my hands were worn ragged from the fight of my life. These little hands I have were split and bleeding. My face is saggy from crying in my car for years for people and places that never mattered. The problems I have carried for years uphill, and in that moment, standing on the cliff when I jumped, I let all those problems fly from my broken and bloody back. And when I crawled my weakened frame of a body to the bathroom, when I stood in front of the mirror where I used to be met with my smiling face, that smiling face was usually paired with my sunny disposition on life. Now I seen eyes red from worrying about my mental and physical health. My insides were now cynical and bitter. My beaten heart was seen on my face for the world. I was dying of a disease in my mind, and day by day my soul was fading. My legs shake on the tightrope I was walking. The tightrope is starting to feel like there is a weakness up ahead. My iron is loaded and ready in my shaky hand. The river's flowing fast beneath my worn feet, and yet I keep walking uphill on a tightrope. Then the sounds of a long black train, lingering in the hills in the lower part of this mountain, and worry waves in my mind like a dark spirit. Then the fire in the distance cried out, screaming like whistles in the wind. Keep going, was the message. That ghost that wanders the woods I walk continued to whisper into my foggy mind. The next morning, on day one of my new life, then I took a big, deep breath of new life. I got dressed and made my plans, and each step in the plan will need to be taken very carefully. This road is untraveled and danger appears ahead. Now we move onward in faith. A spirit held my hand and could sign me not to darkness. The dark force had a hold of me, and seeing the glory of climbing that mountain was still gripping my heart, and thoughts of failing was sinking me into the ground. And each step forward felt like I was stepping into wet mud after a winter thaw. My biggest strength was now sinking me, and each choice was sealing my fate. My mind was no longer in control. Something had a hold of me, or someone, unable to hold my tongue, caused me to give back my broken crown. And when I got to the peak, I found that mountain I had been climbing was not what I thought. It was a volcano, a big, scary volcano, and not the utopia that was listed in the job description. Beautiful greenbacks jump in the distance, showing glimpses in the dust clouds, close enough to imagine how you'd spend the earned rewards. My dark journey in the woods uphill was starting to open into beautiful fields of abundance. I can smell the sweet fruits of a labored climb, and it smells like apples orchards. They promised me abundance, and like Eve in the garden, I knew this story. I'd seen the ending, and now I will not speak of your sins. I will be safe at home, tucked in, warm and happy. My heart was flawed, and I knew my weakness, my addiction, my kryptonite. You cannot tempt me. Your values are all shot. I simply am just standing up from that table, and God has a better table in mind. And with every power comes with a cost. My dream of financial freedom was starting to pull out its hard branches from this magic forest. Nothing in this dream that I was living was not what it seemed. The greenbacks turned into evil mushrooms in the dark grasses surrounding my feet. And if I do not run to safety, they will get a hold of me. And catch me if you can. The world at the top of this volcano was reaching a pressure point. This mountain is rumbling, the rivers are rushing, and the dams are weakening, and my senses are pulling me to run, jump, or pray for safety. The sirens were ringing from the ground below. And unfortunately, I have been climbing this far, and I need to see the eye of the fire deep into the core. I am not a quitter, but if I do not leave now, it will cost me more than scrapes on the knees. A cost so high that I simply do not have the funds to pay. And as I leaped past the opening of the beast, I threw the slip, a slip I signed when I ran my mouth for the last time. And you can bear your beast of burden on someone else. My life has purpose. And at one time in my life, that was my entire purpose. All of my joy I found in my titles and my duties. However, God wanted me to move on. He gave me every clue to leave, and I was not listening. I was unable to be moved. He had to move me. In this I can see clearly now. With His grace protecting me, I will not pay a cost. My life is valuable than any amount of money. And even if my value and eyes cannot be seen, the light inside of me will be seen in time. The smile will beam on you, and my heart will rise from the ashes where you left me. My eyes, connecting to my divine purpose, went up to the clouds, and I began to scream from my lungs to the winds, plying for guidance of what my next move should be. Prior to that call, I wondered if I should keep playing with fire. My heart longs to feel the heat of the fire, daring me to lean in, and I knew what I needed to do. It was going to hurt in a different way, the kind of heartbreak that can shake the earth. Every fiber of my being begged me to stay on the ledge, my toes tapping for a moment of greatness. That life was not the greatness that God had for me. In one swift movement, I turned my back on the fire, took a deep swallow to hold my tears as I felt the fire flooding behind me. Then I started tumbling back down the mountain, hearing my ghost screaming, "Run!" I let my body go limp and roll down that hill, with no worry that I was going to get hurt, and letting the cold wilderness use my body for its desire, leaving not a trace but warnings that linger in your mind. The spirits that have crossed me will wonder if they should run too. Think of me as your ghost in your mind and listen to my warnings. Worry not for me. I will be okay. I'm always here. My hope is that my people will only speak good memories of me. Remember my warnings. You will have to save yourself. My morning yearning will be filled with love, and those spirits that have crossed me in my escape from the nightmare will always live in my heart and motivate me to carry on. This fall will be the last fall from grace, I promise you that, and my future has a divine purpose that I will not give up on. And up until this moment in my life, I have been lying to everyone. My happiness was fake, my smile forced, and however my words of encouragement I used to help strengthen my fatigued heart, my love for you is not an illusion or fake. And every relationship, both professional and personal, is real and pure. This is something I cannot change in a swift movement. My loyalty could never be bought, traded, or stolen, and my conscience is clear and pure like my heart. I am free from pain. Friends, carry onward and upward, and I hope you carry these words with you to help guide you on your journey in this life. It took a lot of sacrifices to get to this point in my journey. That climb on that mountain took pieces of my soul, peeling off skin like paint in an old house. Much like this old house on a hill that I said to write down how I found myself again after taking such a tumble. That volcano was a den of devilish sharks. They were shape-shifted into my demons, holding my keys to success that I longed for. These sharks were greasing me up for years. They fed their belly full of my labors. And despite the efforts of those sharks in that climb, they will go hungry tonight. They may have been trying to prep me for a feast, but I never showed up for dinner. And their bellies will have to stay empty. My server tipped me off the sharks were hungry. The eyes of someone I used to know stared at me. My friend's thoughts lingered in my mind and soul with words of you should probably leave. Words that only lifted into my heart from the heart on the person on the other side of the device in my hand. Friend, I will do just that, just as you trained me to do. I will stand up and take a bow. But don't concern yourself with this mess you've left me. I can clean it up. You see, just if you are You see, just if you are gone, there's nothing you can do or say. You're going to break my heart anyway. So just leave the pieces when you go. The records. Leave the pieces.